Do not let pride get in the way. Ask for help. God doesn't send us into a battle that he hasn't prepared us for. We see that with Moses. When God gave Moses an assignment, he didn't just send him in there blindly. He told him about the obstacles he was going to face. Moses also talked to him about the fears of this assignment. God gave him a helper. He sent him a helper. Hey, Queens, it's your girl, Tiana Elise, and welcome to the Holy It Girl podcast, where I help you integrate biblical principles into your daily lives, such as your relationships, business, career, etc. Today, we are getting into a topic that I love talking about: God and business. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I've been building a business with God lately. For y'all that don't know, the Holy It Girl Society. And building a business with God is different than when I was trying to do it without him. In the past, when I was building it and not really consulting him on it as much. And so I kind of want to get into some things that God has been teaching me along the way when it comes to his expectations of me as a business owner, and just some things and principles that you should think about that are biblical as a business owner, especially if you are someone who's trying to start like a ministry for God, or someone like me where I'm in creating an entire business surrounded around Jesus. It's really important that we are staying in alignment with his will. So yeah, these are just some things to think about. So the first thing is to check your heart posture for stinginess or greed. And I say this because from a worldly standpoint, when it comes to business, it's all about just making money and making a profit, right? And it's still about making profit, right? Because it is a business. At the end of the day, you're not trying to take losses. Correct. But when it comes to God, I find myself trying to find this balance between, okay, I'm doing this for the good of his people. And so how do I make sure that when I'm pricing things, I don't have a greed mindset, but I'm truly thinking about his people and what they need. But sometimes that can put me in this situation where I'm trying to find balance, because it's like, okay, well, should I charge for this, or should I just do this free? And or should I charge money for this? And how can I offer free resources to those that can't afford it, but at the same time, how do I make sure that this is still profitable? It's like this balance. And honestly, I'm still navigating it and figuring out boundaries. But I want to give a scripture, well, actually two scriptures within Proverbs that kind of talk about this. So Proverbs 28 verse 22 says, greedy people try to get rich quick, but don't realize they're headed for poverty, right? And then Proverbs 11 verse 24 says, give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. And so when it comes to building a business with God, he constantly is having me check my heart posture for greed. And there's been times where he had to check me on some things too and be like, you can lower this price, or where is your heart posture coming out of here? This. Because when you're pricing your product, some things you want to keep in mind is, okay, what is your competitors doing? Of course, like how are they pricing themselves? What is the cost for you to produce this product or this event or whatever the case may be? Making sure it covers the cost. But then also, he's been putting it on my heart to really think about the people I'm talking to as well, right? And especially because it's for his kingdom. And what I've actually learned through, in proving the scriptures to be true, when I actually price things at a fair price, he blesses it, right? And something that's really been helping me is to create product and service pricings at different price points. So I have things that are free, like Bible studies or like certain free downloads, but I also have digital products that you have to pay for. I also have the Bible study journals, which you have to pay for, the membership program, which is still affordable, but you have to pay for it. I have resources for every type of person. And so I started to establish boundaries. So one thing I know I'm never going to charge for is Bible study, because I just feel like it should be free, but it's a part of the entire Holy It Girl brand. But there are some extra things like the Holy It Girl Society, if you want mentorship, that I have decided to charge people for, because it's a lot of time and a lot of work that goes into it. One of the things in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is it talks about creating win-win situations. And so what I would find myself in the past, I would lean on the other spectrum to an extreme where I was creating lose-win situations. So that means I would lose in the situation and other people will win. So I was trying to help these people, but it's costing my money, it's costing my resources. And although we are called to give sacrificially, I think it could get to a point where I'm really like helping at a detriment to myself now. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about creating win-win situations. And so me creating different price products as well as offering something that's free that they can download or that they can partake in allows me to kind of create a win-win scenario. And this is also something that God is just continuously checking my heart posture on no matter what, is when I'm pricing things, what's my motive behind things? Should I charge this? And this is why it's so important to kind of stay in connection and in conversation with God to see, because he'll continue to direct you. He'll continue to tell you when your heart posture is not in the right place. But what I found is when I made things reasonable and fair, God blessed it. God blessed it. And so I think we also have to realize that everything is happening in the spiritual first. So check in with God, because if he wants to, he will bless it. Just like when they went to go catch fish and they didn't get anything, and then they went fishing at night and they put the net on the other side of the boat when Jesus told them to, and they caught a bunch of fish. It was Jesus that worked the miracle. So if you're doing what he's saying, he will work the miracle in your life too. Which now moves me to my second point when it comes to business principles, is consulting God on every major business decision. Honestly, even the little ones. I'm talking the partnerships or like people you go into business with, hiring, when it comes to the systems and softwares you're going to be putting in place, when it comes to the pricing of your products, the actual products or service that you want to offer, because sometimes our hearts can be deceitful. You may go into something because you see someone else doing it, but God's like, this is not what I want for you. Just because they did it that way doesn't mean I want you to do it that way. And so making sure that we are consulting God on all these major decisions, especially the partnerships one, because God sees people's hearts better than we do. And so making sure that he wants us to go in partnership with this person, because what if he sees 2 years down the line, this person is going to snake you? He could have warned you about it before it happened. Now, God uses all the plots of the enemy for good, but it's really important that we're talking to him about these partnerships, because there has been times when God told me no, and I didn't understand it at the time. And then maybe something crazy happened later down the line with a company, and I'm like, oh God, I'm glad I listened to you, you know? And we really see this in the book of Joshua, because in the book of Joshua, God, the way that the cycle would go is that Joshua would go to God. God would give Joshua instruction. And for y'all that don't know, Joshua is the one that helped lead the people of Israel into the promised land. But Joshua would go to God. God would give Joshua instruction. And then Joshua would give the instruction to his men, the people that were fighting the battles. And then they would go and attack the lands or conquer the lands. And the one time that they actually lost the battle was when they didn't go to God for instruction. Because the thing about God is, before you go into any battle, and your battle can be whatever you're trying to overcome, like building this business, right? God gives instruction, and he gives detailed instructions, and God can speak to us through people. He can speak to us through dreams. He can speak to us through his word and so many other things. I'll leave the PDF below of signs to know God is telling you to do something, but he can give specific instructions. And so we need to be spending that time with him to gain the wisdom that he's given us when it comes to our business, because God doesn't send us into a battle that he hasn't prepared us for. We see that with Moses. In the book of Exodus, when God gave Moses an assignment, he didn't just send him in there blindly. He told him about the obstacles he was going to face. Moses also talked to him about the fears of this assignment. God gave him a helper. He sent him a helper. He gave him instructions for the helper or the person that he called to help them. And for the things that Moses was afraid about, God gave him instructions on what to say or how to overcome that obstacle. God warned him about the things that were up ahead, so he was prepared for it and the challenges he would face. So it's so important to consult God for your success. It's better for you because God is all knowing. Like, he is literally like a cheat code to life, because favor is not fair, and he literally sees all. So he's giving you instructions based on the things that you can't even see. The third thing that I've been learning on my journey of building a business with God is the importance of having mentors and advisors. Do not try to build on your own, especially if this is something you're doing for the first time. There's always someone that is further along than you, right? And so it's so important to get a mentor. Like, I've had so many mentors along the way. I've invested in mentorship programs. I've went to workshops and conferences to learn from experts. I've had personal mentors in my life that have poured into me and taught me about accounting and, taught me about so many things, networking and all that type of stuff. And it's so important because there are people that are further along than you, right? And you want to glean that wisdom from them. Never think that you are too far along to learn something from anyone, because there's always someone who's further along than you. And I got a scripture to back all this up. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Without wise leadership, a nation falls. There is safety in having many advisors." Proverbs 15 verse 22 says, "Plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success." Have advisors. Have people where you can bounce ideas off of. But once again, before you get a mentor, before you get an advisor, go talk to God to make sure this is the way that He wants you to go, correct? Right? You got to do step number 2 before this, because you could be telling your plans to the enemy. But having advisors is so helpful, which is why I launched my mentorship program called the Holy It Girl Society, which is supposed to help women navigate their season from their old life to their new life with Christ. In there, we talk about setting goals, creating a plans for your goals, breaking bad habits, and so many other things. Everything needed for these women to really step into their purpose and go for everything God is calling them to go for this year. But the reason I created it is because I understood the importance of community, having people who are like-minded around you, right? And who can help you think big, but also the importance of having someone who is maybe doing something that you want to do, or having someone who has knowledge in something that can help you get to where you're trying to go, or pour wisdom from their mistakes and their lessons learned. And so that's why I created this mentorship program, and you can actually register for that below. I think people in today's world, pride can get in the way, and we have this mindset of, oh, I built it on my own, so you don't want to ask for help. Now realizing that your breakthrough may be connected to a piece of information that you didn't know about. And there is somewhere that you are struggling, and sometimes we complain to God because maybe we don't know how to do it, maybe we're overwhelmed by it. But if you get in a room with the right person, they could pour wisdom into you that will help with your situation. Like, something for me that I've always needed help with was like systems. And I remember going to a conference, and yes, I invest in conferences and getting knowledge and mentorships. There was one thing that I needed when it came to my systems, because systems is always something I need help with within my business, and it changed the game for me. And so I just want to encourage you, do not let pride get in the way. Ask for help, seek mentorship. The fourth thing that I've learned in building a business with God is learn how to spot the resources that God has given you. Wherever there is a problem, God has provided provision. God is not like us where He has to think of a plan. He already knew that you were going to have the obstacles and struggles that you were going to have. And so a lot of times He's already planted seeds of provision, but it takes faith, it takes perspective, it takes optimism in order to see the blessings or resources that He's already placed in your life. Sometimes a perspective of lack of faith and complaining and a pessimistic view can actually cause you to miss the blessing that God has already put in front of you. It may be in seed form, and it may take faith for you to actually see the miracle. And we see this in the book of John. After Jesus was crucified, when the disciples went to the tomb, all they saw were linen wrappings, right? It was proof that a miracle had taken place, but it took faith in order for them to perceive the miracle. So it said that when John saw the linen wrappings, he believed that what Jesus had said was true. He saw the miracle. But when Mary saw the same linen wrappings, when she looked at it, she started crying, and she thought someone moved it. So because she was overcome by sadness and grief and lack of faith, she didn't perceive the miracle. And that's what it looks like in a lot of our lives. We're continuously telling God, we need more, we need more, we need more, not recognizing how much He has already given you. You don't need as much as you think you need to get started. When you think of David and Goliath, he killed Goliath with a sling and some stones. He didn't need all that. And that was something that God really had to show me, is that I don't need all I think I need. And He showed me that when I wanted to do this photo shoot, and I was thinking like how much money I would need for a photographer and studio space and all this stuff. And he told me, you don't need all that. I'm not even going to go over the whole testimony, but he ended up surprising me with this entire beautiful backyard at my cousin's. And I saw faith. It took faith for me to see it. And I recognized that I could use this and do my own DIY content shoot for my entire book launch. I think we have to get better at perceiving the evidence of a miracle and learning how to make what God is telling us to do work with the little resources we have. Because if He is telling us to do something, He's already given us something to make it happen. It may be in seed form. The seed may be in the form of a person. It may be in the form of a person who has some information. It may be in the form of social media. Social media is free right now. That is free advertisement. And some people don't even have the consistency enough to keep up with it and use it and take advantage of it, right? There's so many seeds. Sometimes we're consistently telling God what we don't have instead of perceiving what He already has given us, right? Just get started with what you have. That is something else I've learned. Because when you have God on your side, He makes up for where you lack. It's just our job to follow His instruction, right? It's just our job to fill up the jars with water and then He'll turn it into wine. It's just our job to line everyone up on the grass and then He will feed the 5,000. It's just our job to remove the stone from the tomb and He will raise Lazarus, right? So, and those are all little instructions that He told them to do before He worked the miracle. So when you start to look at things in a perspective of what is He telling me to do with the little bit that I have and trusting that He can make it more than enough. Okay. 5 is about honesty and integrity, and that is self-explanatory. And honestly, I think a lot of you probably will think, well, duh, of course you have to be honest in business. Well, one, there are a lot of people who aren't. But also, He's even shown me how little marketing things can be deceitful, right? So something as small as when you tell people, oh, there's only 3 spots left, but in reality, there's probably like 10 spots, but you're trying to build a sense of urgency, right? God, when I almost started to do this, God convicted me on it before I put it out. And I was like, God, this is a marketing tactic. Like we learned this in marketing. And He's like, yeah, but that's the world's way. And just because it's a norm in the world doesn't mean I'm calling you to do it, because I'm calling you not to be of the world. I'm calling you to be set apart. So just because it's a common thing to do doesn't mean it's right. And so even when it comes to integrity, I think we can think of big things that are bad, but I'm talking even down to the smallest things God has shown me, like, no, I'm calling you to be fully honest and transparent. And so what that did for me is build transparency within me. So now I'm transparent with my audience about the highs and the lows and what worked and what didn't work. I'm not trying to save face. And then people actually are drawn to the brand because of the personal story behind it. Through God building this transparency in me and making me comfortable with, showing the low moments, I've actually truly built community. And lastly, and honestly, well, I won't say it's the most important, but it's right there under consulting God all the time. But hard work. Work hard. All through Proverbs, it speaks against laziness. And I got some scriptures for you. Proverbs 13 verse 4 says, lazy people want much but get little, but those who work hard will prosper. Proverbs 14 verse 23 says, work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. God is all about working hard. Especially when you're building something for God, you want to give it your all. You do not want to half do anything for God. And He will bless you for it. It says right there in the scriptures, when you put in the work, when you show up consistently, when you're not just talking about the things you're going to do, but when you actually take action on it, you will see the results of your hard work, because we reap what we sow. And so hard work and getting out of procrastination and getting out of laziness is something that God had to work with me on, and to show me, like, sometimes we can make excuses. We can make reasons of why we can't do that and why we can't do this. It even talks about that in Proverbs, how lazy people will find any excuse to not do the things that they need to do. Stop making excuses and get it done. Let go of procrastination. When you're building something for God, honor Him by taking action, by remaining consistent, by showing up for yourself every day. Because self love, and I was just talking about this on my mentorship call, self love isn't about just, getting mani pedis and getting your toes done and going to the spa and taking a bath. Self love is discipline. It's about doing the things that you don't want to do because you know it's what's best for you. So, hard work, God expects it. Okay, there are so many other lessons I've learned from building this business with God, but I'm going to stop it and put a pin in it right there. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I'll see you later. Bye.